If you enjoyed this video, do subscribe by pressing this button below. You'll be the first to be informed of any posting that I make. Shalom, goodbye. In Jesus' name, amen. A short introduction to Alex is that Alex is a wonderful brother that I met when I was in Toronto a couple of months ago. In July, that's right. It's still a couple of months ago. And I met him in his leisure home, up north in Toronto. It's a huge compound, and we were blessed by his hospitality. He was trained as an architect, but he also has been a great blessing in the marketplace. Before that, he was also the general manager of Bell Canada. And he has written a very powerful book, and I'll let him share what the Lord has given to him. So with that, Alex, over to you, and you may add on to what I have missed out.
To people, and I realized that whether in the marketplace or at professional places, it is people don't pay much attention to the personal health side. And we had learned everything about technology. We learned everything about how to manage a business, but we never say much about how to manage yourself. And even in churches, we talk about being spiritual and being a follower of Christ and being fervent in our faith, but we always lack the aspect of our physical self, which must be taken care of. If you don't have a healthy body, it is very difficult to do the Lord's work. And
Amen.
And the thing is, you can always say, "Oh, the Lord look after me, and I'll do that. I just have to follow Him." Yes, but the thing is, the Lord also give you responsibility as a human being on this earth to do His work. That you have to take care of yourself, right? Even Paul said to Timothy, because you have a stomach problem, drink a little bit of wine to settle your stomach. So, it is important to do that. So all this come together, and I just realized that it is an important issue, okay? And then I start doing the research, and it took me about 8-9 years to do the research. And so I come finally get writing this book, as I shared with Jay yesterday. The writing is very difficult. It's just very hard work. So anyway, are we okay with the PowerPoint?
Yeah, it's up, but Alex, I got a message that it's a bit soft. Maybe you could speak a bit louder or closer to your iPad.
I can see very sharp here.
No, soft. Your voice is soft.
Oh, my voice?
Yes. Right.
My voice.
Now I'm on your PowerPoint already. You let me know when I need to.
Let me see. If I get closer, would it be better? Is it better now?
Yes, closer.
I can hear you very well, but I have to comment that it was a bit soft. But okay. For me, it's all right. I think it's a matter of controlling the volume for those who want to hear your voice clearer. So it's all good to go, Alex. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this is a photograph I took just outside my study, and as Canada is changing colors, this is one of the wonderful things. I live north of Toronto. I don't live in Toronto. I live in a little village north of Toronto called the Caledon Hills or Caledon Village. My wife and I moved there, and we have a house, a very big house, as Jay mentioned. The Lord gave us this opportunity to buy the houses for His purpose, because all the brothers and sisters who want to use it for their meetings, for gathering, and for fellowship are welcome, as long as they let my wife know when they're coming. So this is it. Next one, please. We can change next slide. This is my learning life, and our life is part of a learning process. And I graduated from McGill University in Montreal in architecture. And then around 50 years old, I took a Master of Theology degree from Tyndale University. At that time, I just wanted to find out whether my brain is still working or not. And I spent my whole career at Bell Canada as in design and architecture, and eventually became chief architect, and then eventually became general manager to look after all the physical parts. And then after I took the early retirement, I joined my friend in forming this company called Aviemore Sterling. It is we are doing design for third world countries to help raise their living standard, and it is a kind of interesting thing. So this is basically what I do most of the time, and now I'm into writing. Okay, now how's my voice? Is it okay? Okay, now so my global footprint, for the last 25 years or so, I've been traveling all over the world except Africa to speak at conferences, basically not on church stuff or Christian stuff, but more on my professional stuff, technology. But somehow, as a Christian, in my speaking, I sometimes input a little bit of my Christian value into it. So the same thing with my book. I wrote this book. It's not a Christian book, but it's a book written by a Christian. So in other words, the viewpoint is very different. Perhaps, I hope so. So Jay, who read my book, I think he can make a judgment on that one. So before I write the book, I started making presentations in Beijing, and of course, beautiful Singapore, twice, and also in Phoenix, Arizona, to basically test the water. And the top left corner is the Beijing in 2018, and I call it the aging manager. And all my friends said that it is too depressing. So I changed it to call the strategic life plan, which is easier. So I tested the water, and I got a lot of good response from the people. And the largest group was almost 200 people. So then I started writing the book. Next. Now, life is, is in our history. Like, this guy, we all know him. He's in search of eternal life, and obviously, they found. You see that little strip of writing that is actually found several years ago, about I think 30,000 bamboo strips from his time, and identified that he actually did commission one of his ministers to find the magic pill of eternal life. Of course, we know the story. Didn't get it. So next one. Then we have failing that we have people who try to find the fountain of youth, and there is actually a fountain of youth in Florida, in St. Augustine, and I think it's part of that the legend of the Spanish people who arrive in North America and try to find it, and you know what happened to that one, right? Because again, you can't do that. Next one. So plan A doesn't work, eternal life. Plan B doesn't work, fountain of youth. So we go for plan C, which is look good generation. This is my term. And if you look at the diagram on the right, this is from Global Wellness Institute. In 2022, the wellness, long life, well-being economy is 5.6 trillion. That's how big the business is. It includes everything: tourism, medical, cosmetics, of course, play a big portion. So that is a huge, huge business. And I think this year they're looking at surpassing 7 billion. Okay, so this is a big business. maybe we shouldn't be engineers and lawyers and architects, and we should be nutritionists and beauty, what do you call it? Beauty parlor people. Okay, so next one. So if you look at, this is an interesting chart. If you look at the history of mankind, our population is basically a flat line until the industrial age. And all of a sudden, for some reason, maybe because of communication or better food and so on, that our human population in the world has grown like crazy. Now, for most people say that, wow, this is, overpopulation, but actually the earth is bigger than that. But for us Christian, we can realize that, maybe that is pointing to a point that our humanity is going to coming to an end with the coming of the Lord Jesus, right? So it just kind of give us that little pointer there, have a little bit of insight. Now, our life expectancy used to be 65, but now they predict that we can live to 100, 120, even 132. So with our better hygiene, better food, and better medical care, so we can live that long. Next. So this is a recent report of Aging Asia, and an arrow points to Singapore. And you see a 34.25 there. That is way up there. That means we all have looking at an aging society. And now the right-hand side is kind of interesting. The major causes of death. And they look at heart disease is always the big one, right? And the other one is cancer. And interesting enough, the third one is accidental death. You go outside, you're not careful, you get hit by a truck. That's the end of you. But now they are now talking about perhaps press a slide, Joe. Something should come up. Maybe aging, they're looking at aging is also considered as a cause of death. This is very recent. So that is, the medical people are kind of debating about that. So that will be interesting. Okay, so that is coming to the picture. Next. Now let me give you a good news and bad news. Okay, we always love to have that. And this is some of you may recognize him, Professor Alex Xia, the CEO of KK Hospital in Singapore, and he invited me to speak last year, and I gave him a book, and he seemed to be quite pleased about it. So the good news and the bad news, what do you want first? Let me start with the good news. How about the good news? Next. The good news is that we live longer, and we live healthier. We talk about lifespan and also health span, right? And they are predicting that in the workplace, they may even have people that are 90 years old will be in the workplace. So there you go. You don't have to pack up and go. The bad news is that we are in a hurry society. We have a lot of pollution, noise, food, chemicals. But then for the younger people, I call it not a Gen X or Gen Z. I call it a Gen W. I call it a wandering generation. You ask the young people, they have no idea what they're going to do. They live a day at a time, have a good time, and that's it. Don't bother me. So I think it's important when I look at this thing. We live longer, we live better. What are you going to do with your life? Okay, it's not just the normal. So I start doing research, looking at different things. Read over 200 books. Next one. And also get involved with all these healthcare research institutions to find out what is going on. And then I also get worried about when you go on the internet, you have all kinds of information and just overload. So I started to put all that together and then write my book to hope to help people understand what's going on. Okay. And I'm going to share 3 points. First, the science, then what is a new well-being? There's a new definition of well-being. And then finally, as Christians, as matter for non-Christians even, what is your calling? What is your mission? Why are you here? The purpose of life? Okay, so let's go with the first one. First, the science. Anybody recognize this guy? Professor Hu Yang. He's 25,000 years old. He's a robot from the latest Star Wars. And he still have all the majority of his original parts. So definitely he's not built by Boeing. So that's the science. I love this guy. He's amazing. Anyway, I want to tell the story about telomere. This is the important thing. When you look at the science about longevity, what makes you live longer? And in management, in office, we always go to the root source or root cause of something, right? And so you go back, and this is what it is. Telomere is the thing that makes us live longer. And let's see what happened. It all started with Nobel Prize winner Elizabeth Blackburn, who wrote the book, The Telomere Effect, and she discovered the telomere in our human system, in our chromosome, is causing whether we age or we don't age. It's part of the aging process. Next. And if you remember your high school biology, we have a cell. The cell is a nucleus. Within the nucleus, there are things called chromosomes. And within the chromosomes, you have the DNA coming out from there. That's part of another discovery. But the telomere is at the end of these chromosomes. Okay, the little red spots. And in some sense, it's like a cap. The chromosome is like spaghetti. You kind of twist it around and squeeze it together. And then the telomere is kind of cap it together so it doesn't frail, and also all that. Okay, next. So if you look at that, what's the aging process? When a cell divides itself, 1 into 2, 2 into 4, 4 into 8, and so on, each time it divides itself, your telomere, which is the red part that you see on top, gets shorter and shorter and shorter until no more. Then the cell dies. That's the end of the cell. And that is a photograph of the telomere, the little bright spot there. And you can look at it like the shoestrings of your sneakers, okay? The little plastic, the cap, the string from frailing. That's the thing that kept the chromosome from frailing. So the important thing is make sure your telomere is intact, okay? So Elizabeth Blackburn said, how do you keep that? How do you keep the health of your telomere? Because, if your telomere gradually diminish, that means you get white hair, you got wrinkles, you got everything else. How do you keep it long? And she said that these are 5 aspects. One is, of course, nutrition, the food that you eat, okay? And then your response to emotional challenges. How do you take, in other words, stress, okay? How do you take stress? Can you overcome that? And can you deal with it? And then third one is, of course, the exercise you get, how much exercise you get. And we can talk about that a little bit later because there's new finding on that. And then the next 2 is quite unique, and it is not so much in the Asian society, I find, and I haven't anything to prove that. Maybe in my next book I'll do that. The next one is exposure to childhood stress. And it seems in the West, those of you who have been studying or working in the West, they all seem to have some problem when they were a child abuse and all that stuff. But that seems to be a major thing, okay? And then trust and safety in your neighborhood. Are you living in an area that you are not afraid when you go home at night? You don't have to look, at your back all the time. So those are 5 factors that really affect the telomere, whether it can retain its thing. As a matter of fact, you can lengthen your telomere. Next one. Dr. Ornish, who have done a lot of research into longevity and aging, and he's had in his book, he said, you have to cultivate your telomeres. Your lifestyle change can actually increase the length of your telomere, and even getting into a reverse aging process on a cellular level. That means you can cause that to happen. So the whole thing is lifestyle change. Okay. Now, I don't know whether you folks have read this book or not. It's by Philip Yancey. Really a nice book, but it's quite an old book, but they have revised it now. Fearfully and wonderfully made. And it's to talk about the human system, human being. But if you look at the human system, when I do this, in my book, I mentioned, it is amazing. A human being have 36 trillion cells. And in each cell, they have 23 pairs of chromosomes, which the last determine whether you're male or female. And if you take that, and I mentioned it is the DNA, the chromosome is like a spaghetti, right? Put together. And you put it straight out, it's 2 meters long. Okay. And you got 23 pairs of that, so times 2. And then you have 36 trillion, those times 36 trillion. You know how incredible our human being, our body is. So in my book, I said, how can you say there's no intelligent design in this thing? So I thought that would be something that we can ponder upon and see how wonderful God has made our body. Next. So now we know a little bit about longevity, what makes us age. So in between, we have a thing about well-being. How do we maintain that balance? How do we maintain our well-being? So we will look into the new definition of well-being. Next. I just pulled 2 examples to illustrate that. This is very interesting for a Christian, because in the past, when we talk about the spirit or human spirit and God's spirit dwells in us, it's very difficult for us to tell people that. It's very difficult for us to explain what that is. Okay, and science will not do anything like that. But in my research, in the last 15 or 20 years, scientists have started to come out and publicly declare and written papers to say that spirituality or spiritual well-being is important to you. And if you look at the top one, they talk about the 3 things: physical, mental, and spiritual. In the past, people talk about physical and mental, but now they added spiritual. It's an important part to nurture your spirit, okay, in very many ways. The other one is not a process of whether you are free from illnesses or disease, okay, but it's a state of a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And the lifestyle will change that, will help you to establish that. So this is very important. The third part in our equation is spiritual, and it's coming more and more apparent and public with the scientific community. So this is something we should pay attention to. Next. So in doing all this research, looking at all these books and looking at all the confusion, I finally came down, they all agreed on certain things. A very good one is blue zones. And I think Singapore is trying to establish also as a blue zone. And the National Wellness Institute, which is, I'm a member of that, and they have different aspects, John Hopkins and so on. What I've tried to do is to they all have similar things, okay, in different ways of saying it. So I take 10 commonalities that are same with all these different organizations. Next. So I put together, next slide. I put together a kind of a spider web diagram, a spider diagram, and I put it as the 10 points, okay, with mind and rest in the middle. So looking at each aspect of it to allow you to gauge yourself. Next slide. So I call it the 10 well-being competencies. I just want to give you a little bit background on that. When I was in Bell Canada around the 1990s, I was tasked with a very important assignment to establish a professional competencies for our next generation of managers. What do you need to be able to join Bell Canada would be good prospect. So working with a psychiatrist, I developed a competency model for our human resources people. Okay, so with that kind of background, the National Academies in the US, which is founded by Abraham Lincoln, they invited me to sit on their working committee to establish the professional competencies for their next hiring for the US government agencies. That included Homeland Security, FBI, CIA, and all those incredible people. So from there, I used the same technical knowledge to establish, hey, let's have a well-being competencies. Okay, so I take that 10 common points and put it together. Now, if you look at it, in the center is the red line. If you ever travel on the air and now they give you the map, right, to see where you are flying, which one, and one of them shows you the aircraft balance, and this is like the aircraft balance, whether you are traveling horizontal or an angle. Mind and rest are two very important aspects in our competency model. Below that, I call it self-care. You look after yourself. These are things you can control. Your fitness, okay, your exercise, so on. Your interest is very important as part of your common competencies. Whether you have a hobby, or something, okay. And nutrition, obviously, without saying, is a very important aspect. And your career is also an aspect of your whole, because you spend, half your life working. So now, on top of that, I call it the relationship or relational type of competencies. One is very important, and in Asian, for Asians, is very strong, but in the northern Western society, it's not as strong, especially in North America. Family. Family is so important in our Asian culture and even in European culture. But North America seems to lose that part of it. As soon as you become 14-year-old, they kick you out and start to, do things, stand on your own, right? Family is very important. It's coming back to remind us that family is important in our relation. The other relationship is community. Community means two things. One is that where you live, the people you hang out with. The other one is also within your professional organization, your profession. If you're a doctor, you may have a society that you join, engineers and whatever, right? You have a group of people you join for your professional affiliation. That is important. That's part of your community. Of course, the more important community is where you live, the people that you hang out with. Okay. Now, then the other two is important, and it's always been the number one question in philosophy, which is the purpose of life. Why are we here? What is the purpose of your life? Okay, that is important. And then finally, this one is coming out in almost every institution is faith. Religion, faith, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, okay, is they find out that people who have faith live longer, live happier, live a more content life. Okay, so this is something that as a Christian, we can use this to be able to strengthen, our message to young people, our message for non-believers and so on. So that 10 I put it in circle from the center is 0 to 10, 20% increments. What I ask people to do is in my book, to do is you can do a self-evaluation. Okay. I'm going to send you some of those diagrams for you so that you can distribute. They can print it out and use it for themselves.
Thank you.
You can do a self-analysis, self-assessment. Don't have to share to anybody. Okay, do it every so often. You can see where you are lacking and so on. Now, a lot of things are very simple things. You don't have to pay a lot of money. You don't have to go to this 5-star hotel out in the mountain of Himalayas, where you drink special oxygen water and all that stuff. It's very simple. Look, on the left-hand side, think, inquire, explore, research, inspire, read, learn, dream. Hey, dream is good. Dreaming is very good. I bet Steve Jobs and Bill Gates spend most of the time dreaming. That's why you have nice product coming from them. Play chess or play music. Play music is very important to discover that because of your left hand and right hand are doing different things, your brain function is working much better. So play music is good. And on the other side is on the left side is also very important. Sleep. Okay, you got to sleep. If you can sleep, you conquer half the battle. You take a nap. Now, companies now even have places we can take naps. It's okay to nap. Okay, maybe some of the more progressive companies. Walk. Okay, exercise. You don't have to pump iron. A simple walking is very good. As a matter of fact, there is in my book I mentioned about what they call forest bathing. I'm not saying that you will take a shower there, but you walk through the forest. Singapore is great. You have lots of trees. You walk through the forest, the tree area. Your trees, believe it or not, trees actually talk to one another. I've been doing. I did a sidetrack and look at trees. Trees actually talk to one another. Okay, when one tree is being attacked by some insect, they send out some sort of a scent to alert other trees that watch out, these guys are coming to eat you up, right? But walking through a forest, your tree produces an enzyme that is very good for your system, and you just walk through it, wander through it, without any destination, and breathe in the forest air. It's amazing. And of course, take a break. We tend to do things really hard and concentrate, but take a break and pray. Prayer is very important. Prayer can be like meditation, is a kind of relaxation, a kind of rest. Forest bathing and listen to music is always good. So that is part of the rest. So now the thing is, this is a balance. Rest, you don't have rest, your mind is going crazy. If your mind goes crazy, you don't have rest. So it's a continuum. It's a balance. So you have to have those two. Your mind is like a CPU. It's a command center. You got to take care of it because it works with your system. Okay, to tell you what to do, and rest will provide time for it to reset, to calculate memories, establish new memories, and catalog them so that you can retrieve them later on. Okay, so those are two very important things. And then once you get that understood and organized, then your relationship will help, your self-care will help. Next one. It is not, this is an example when I do that. On the right-hand side is a more mature person that you will see that, the involvement is more circular, more full, more rounded. But the left-hand side is a young professional who probably spend a lot of time playing games, computer games, and eat quickie noodles and that type of thing, and don't pay much attention to their health. So that is the idea of how you make that chart to work for you. Okay, next one. The important thing is it's not only one thing. When you go on the internet, you talk to some people. You just concentrate on one thing, do an exercise, or do a massage, or do this meditation, do this yoga. But the whole life is very complicated. The whole life is a relational thing. It's like a gyroscope. It relates to one another. The mind relates to rest. Your family relates to your community, to your well-being, and your fitness and nutrition, and your faith and your purpose of life, your understanding, your calling, your career, your interest. They all lump together. They all relate to one another. You cannot have one overdo on one thing and not do it. So if you can do a more, I call it gyroscopic holism, is that everything works together. All right. Next. So what about our marketplace? We talk about work-life balance. Okay. Up there is your business functions. You have to do your business. You got to learn all these things, right? Whatever you do. Below is your social function. In a company, you may have parties or meetings or, motivation speakers, or you have to, even get together for lunch, that type of social functions, your mentorship, your education, your learning. So between the two, what is your work-life balance? What drives you? What is the growth? How do you, the job satisfaction? The work-life balance will produce the things on the right-hand side where the little red triangle is, that you get job satisfaction, well-being, and happiness, and family. Next. You see, if you fit that gyroscope in there, this is how you maintain your work-life balance. There's a new way of looking at it. Now, as an architect, I like to look at a building, and you have a fantastic building in Singapore. Look at a building and how you equate to your person, right? So here it is. As while building, you got the data or CPU, like your brain, your structure is like your bone, electrical like your nerves, HVAC, aircon is like your lungs breathing in, and so on. So all these things, if you look at a building, look at your own house, look at your own condo, you can almost equate that to yourself. If you take care of your house, then you should do the same thing, take care of yourself. Next one. In my profession, we talk about three things about, yes, that's the one. Maintenance, okay? Go to the next one. Yeah, we talk about scheduled maintenance, and we know that it's like our annual checkup. Every so often you do vaccination, X-ray, and then what we do is preventive maintenance. Your fitness, your nutrition, to keep you fit, build up your immunity so that you can prevent diseases or illnesses to happen to you. But there's a new thing there's a thing that we do in my profession of property management or facility management or building design. It's called predictive maintenance. How you predict something will happen. In our profession, we have a thing using vibration measure. We can see the machine vibrating. And Jay, you are a mechanical engineer, you probably know what I'm talking about. To measure the vibration of the machine, be able to foretell when the machine will break down and be able to do things to it. Now, the two things, DNA test. Most people look at this your ancestry, whether you're from where, and that's one thing. But DNA test is very good because for people who may not know who their parents are, like orphans and so on, they will be able to find out if they can, from the DNA, whether they have something that can be predicted, whether you have illnesses that is latent in your body. But now, this is something we should pay attention to, is the AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, some people say evil and all that stuff. It's like a gun, whether you use it to protect or use it to kill. AI, I see, from what I have learned, is that it's like big data. You got all our information that you can access it real good. And I think it will help us to do predictive maintenance to our body, to our health. So this is something we have to pay attention and look at it and use that to benefit us rather than to use it to do weird things. Okay, next. Now, I spend a lot of time doing this. As a Christian, we also talk about body, soul, and spirit. How do you relate this to long life? Now, the body is very easy. We all know that. You can see, touch, feel, smell, eat, right? There's a body. There's a body. Body is a sense of the world around you. What is the soul? Okay, the soul is your emotion, your mind. Okay, in other words, your community. Your soul is your character. When people come to see you, it is your character, your emotion, your expression. That's who you are. So when the soul and the body come together, it's your person. When people touch you, they see a physical form with your character in there, and that's your person. And the soul is like a self-image, okay, image of yourself or self um, sense. Now, what is the spirit? This is always a big problem for Christians. What is spirit? We always talk about, oh, be in spirit, be filled with spirit, but we cannot explain it. Spirit is a thing, or some people said it's an organ that is God's sense. That this is the organ you use to contact God. Okay, you don't connect God with your soul or your body. You connect God through your spirit. Okay, and the Holy Spirit, when we believe, comes into our spirit, will dwell in us. So when the spirit and the soul come together, this is our heart. When you talk about where's your heart, right? And this is the way I look at this whole thing about the tripartite man, our being, body, soul, and spirit in this way, and it cannot be separated. It cannot be separated. Life is amazing. Okay, you cut up a body, you don't find life. There's no such thing as a life, but it's a whole bunch of organs and things like that. But when we put together, the Lord form us is a whole being, a tripartite being. Okay, so I hope this diagram will help you reflect a little bit about the whole body, soul, and spirit aspect. Thanks. And this is what the Paul told us, may the God of peace make you holy in every way, and may your whole spirit and, in Greek is kai, soul and body. It's not lumped together. It's three separate things, and yet it's together. Be kept blameless until the Lord Jesus Christ comes again. So Paul told us that we have to take care of all that part. Maybe through this presentation, you maybe go back and think about that a little bit more. Next. And then today, when people talk about medicine, the body is our conventional medicine. You heal our body, you get hurt, you can feel. But our psychology is the emotional part. But there's a new one, the spiritual part of it, now come into the picture. And some people call it integrative or functional medicine or alternative medicine. That means it takes the whole being to come together. Instead of just body or your mental, you are also spiritual. Next. Now, this is very interesting. More and more books are talking about your mind and your guts, your stomach are linked together. And I call it the gut-brain highway. The books written there about gut-brain connection or mind-gut connection. But you know what? The Chinese have done that 5,000 years ago. Okay. Wang Di Lei Jing. Okay. Well, already talked about that. But who had bought this this book in China? It's only cost me 50 cents. Thing. So it's amazing printing. But the Chinese already talk about that. We talk about when you go for traditional Chinese medicine, if you go back to ancient history, they usually look at you, see what you look like, feel your pulse, find out where you work, what you work, what kind of job you do, and what's your environment. They look at the whole picture, then they treat you. Okay, so this is this coming more and more into today's new medicine. So the brain and the gut are very important. They connect to each other. Okay, that's why you need rest. You need to eat properly. Otherwise, your brain will not function properly. Okay, next. So the one thing I like you to keep in mind, take away is self-care. Take care of yourself. You have to take care of yourself. There's two parts of it. This is from GCAT, which is a Canadian company. They demand the employees to, first of all, take care of themselves before they take care of their customers. They actually had institutionalized it. They actually have a form that you have to track. How do you take care of yourself? Do you sleep enough? Do you eat enough? Do you eat well? Do all these things, exercise and so on. They have to write that out, and then they have to get approval before you can take care of your customers. I think this is amazing. This is a very, very good thing for all of us to learn. Okay, so that is self-care, and you will probably see that coming more and more in the future years in the research and promotion of that. Next. So here's my summary of that. How do you keep yourself live long? First of all, don't kill yourself. Okay, how do you not kill? Don't go skydiving or play extreme sports like hitting your head against each other, like some Americans like to do, or Australians like to play rugby. We're very strange sport. Don't kill yourself. Don't eat. Don't poison yourself. Don't eat things that is no good for you. You know, Coca-Cola and all that stuff. You know, that is a big killer. Do self-care. Take care of yourself. Okay, and you will be okay. That's just common sense, common science, right? So this is something new that you have to look at. Our immune system is amazing. God put it in us. But there's a new thing called autoimmune. The immune system, now they discover, and it's a new thing, and you have to pay attention to that in the future, that they discover our immune system sometime because of external forces, things that you ate or whatever, start to rebel, start to kill all the good stuff. So this is something that we have to pay attention to. Next one. So let me just give you this final stage in our life, retirement. Okay, I want to give you some new thoughts. Okay, next slide. This is a new aging theory. Okay, they used to talk about the 3 stages of aging: childhood, work, and retirement. That's it. But now they're talking about 4 stages: childhood, work, but there is a 4th stage that it is longer than 3 and 4, because I call it end stage, because without longevity, you can do a lot more in your life, okay, to take care of yourself and do more things. And on top of that, you see the 3rd age, free career, BC ethic. These are new second acts. These are new books, new terms that people come up with to talk about a new aging theory. What do we do with our life instead of just childhood, work, and retirement? We talk about childhood, work, and then work until you reach fulfillment. So next one. This is an important slide, and this is a good book. I highly recommend it. You know, he talked about something that's very interesting. Retirement. It's not that you give up and you go home and play with your grandchildren or whatever. He talked about retirement is to retire. Tire. That means if you are driving a car, you change your tires and you change your engine. So what you do is at that time, you change your tires because you've been running for 60 years and go in a new direction. And I love this definition. And put in a new engine to live it all. This is what retirement should be. Moses never retired, Paul never retired, John never retired, and I don't think we should retire. We just have to put in new tires and go somewhere else. Next one. Singapore is doing amazing things. Okay, you guys should be proud of yourself. In my research, there's no country in the entire world that have done more thinking, strategic planning for longevity, for seniors, for preparation for the aging society than Singapore. This is a report written a few years back by Prudential, which is excellent. But they talk about proactive steps. Consider the possibility of living to 100. You know, they wrote that in their report. Imagine more than a 3-stage life. This is exactly what I just said. Have regular health checkup in younger years, build intangible assets, that's the financial part of it, manage your finance, and broaden social and professional network. Networking in a new sense is very important. Next one. So now come to the important thing, calling, your mission, your purpose in life, meaning. Let me quote a very famous American philosopher. Next slide. And he said, where am I going? What am I doing? And what is the meaning of life? And this is a question that we always ask us. Philosophers from Aristotle, Plato, all the way to now, people still ask that question. And Christian always say, what is my calling? Okay, so what is your calling? What does God want me to do? Next slide. I think it's very simple. I think this is your calling. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, in everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. You don't have to do all kinds of, serious stuff. You don't have to become a monk, stay in a cave. You just said, the Lord just wants you to be rejoiced. You would be happy. To pray without ceasing, not necessarily kneel down and pray, but to pray meaning to communicate, to talk, to share your thoughts with God. Okay, speak to God. Communicate with Him. That is prayer. Prayer is just talking to God. Hey, God, it's not that you want something, you pray to Him, but you always continue to talk. Remember in Genesis, when God was looking for Adam, when Adam sinned, where are you? But He says in the shade of the day, He's walking in the forest, looking for Adam. That means in the past, they hang out together. Okay, this is what God wants us to do. He doesn't want us to work all kinds of weird things. He just wants us to be there with Him. So in everything, give thanks. Amazing. Some people don't give thanks for anything. Be gracious, be gratitude is one important thing. This is the will of God. If we can do those things, we're not bad. We're getting there. Next one. Now, this is a famous verse in Chinese by Li Bai, the poet, right? 天生我材必有用. I changed the punctuation. Okay, I said instead of 天生我材, God gave me a talent, 必有用. So there must be a use for that. But I changed the comma to 天生我才必有用. How's that? I was born first a being for a purpose. Instead, I was born with talent that will be used in the future, right? Or for a purpose. So I was born a being. So go back 700 years to 51 AD. Paul probably is a good friend of Li Bai. Paul said, for in him we live and move and have our being. Okay, so this is amazing. This is why we are here. This is what our being is. Okay, because God made us, and then Li Bai must be a Christian. He probably talked to Lao Tzu, who knows something about Tian. Tian is the old ancient Chinese replacement of God, right? Their knowledge with God. So this is something very important because we are here. There is a purpose. Next. So Emerson said that it is not the length of life, it's not how long you live, but the depth of life, how you live your life. What influence do you have? That's the important part. Okay, next one. I found this is an old picture advertising from, I think, Qantas airline when they first established a direct flight to Xi'an. And I like these pictures when they're having a smile and show the relationship is a key to sustainable well-being. You cannot be alone. And some young people want to be alone. They play games. It just don't bother me to be alone. Relationship is important. We have to have relationships somewhere, somehow, we got to have relate to family to start with. Relate to, your children, your parents. Relate to your community, people around you, your neighbors, relate to people in your office, your co-worker, your boss, and relate to the society. So that's important. Next. I love this one. This one I still think about it. I like you to think about this one. Mine is a book that I just so love it. By Daniel Siegel. In there, he said there's a new relationship formula. Me plus we equal to, you figure out how to say that. Me. Okay. Me, now, if you are working in an office, you know that we never say I. We. Me is basically your interior self, your being. We is the people out there, is your exterior self. You touch people. That's we. But he said that there's also an integrative communication between your mind and your body and your soul. That's your well-being. When you and people around you in a relationship come together, that's your well-being self, your community. This is something we have to think about. I just captured this, and I think this is amazing. And I'm still haven't thought through this whole thing, but it's still, every time I look at it, it inspires me. I hope it does you too. Next one. Now, if you are in management, you know about this one, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? So it always represents as a triangle: self-actualization, esteem, love, safety, and physical needs at the bottom. But I found this other slide that I think is amazing. Next one. Do the same thing, express it in a different way. They express it as curves. In other words, they're overlapping events. And look at the one in the middle, love and belonging, is actually gluing all the other ones together. With the triangle, you thought that you look after your physical needs, I'm happy, then I go to the next level and next level. But here it's not. They're all together, just like same as I said about gyroscopic holism, right? It's not the one thing, but they're all interrelated. Your physical well-being, your looking after your physical needs is also very important to establish your love, your self-actualization, how you do things. So take a look at that chart and compare with the triangle. I think you may think about something that is worthwhile. Next one. The same thing with a triune God. God himself is a triune God. Father, Son, and Spirit. You cannot separate them. They are kind of intermixed together, right? But God and man is also a relationship. Okay? God, I dwell in you, right? And my spirit, your body is a temple of God. Your spirit dwells in you. So there is a relationship, God and us. When we got saved, it's not that we go to a religious place and then worship, but when Christians are saved, when we are saved, we have a relationship with God, and God is mingled into us, is part of us. So that's how important this relationship is. Then man and man, when we dealing with each other, is the same thing. We have to take all that into account. Okay, next one. Let me tell you a story. We all know Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin. It's in my book. Winnie the Pooh is not a children's book. It's actually a book for adults, a book for philosophy. This is a story about Winnie the Pooh and Christopher Robin sitting there looking into the wilderness. And all of a sudden, Christopher Robin, the little boy, asked Winnie the Pooh, he said, Pooh, when I'm 100 years old, will you be there for me? Really good friends. And then the story goes, Pooh looked at him and said, how old will I be? And Christopher Robin said, 99. And Winnie the Pooh said, think for a minute. He said, yeah, I will be here for you. Now this is not the end. The end is how they end that story is that then the book tells you Christopher Robin put his hand on Winnie the Pooh's paw, and they continue to look towards the wilderness. Now that little gesture of the boy putting a hand onto Winnie the Pooh's, the teddy bear's hand, tells you a lot. Relationship is not just say that I see you, and go for dinner and all that stuff. Relationship is all the small things that counts. The little gesture, the little relationship, the little things you express to the other party, that counts. So next slide. That's the end, I think. This is our journey. Okay, I map it out from 0 to 120. But the red line is 100, right? Most of us supposed to retire 60, 65 or something like that. Okay. So in other words, if we live longer, then we have a whole, almost half of our lifetime in front of us. The nice thing about that is in the beginning, 0 to 10, there's nothing you can do. You're under control of your parents. Then the next stage is that you learn, and then you establish your work and you establish yourself. But when you get to further on, 50, 60, 65 and beyond, you start to accumulate knowledge, you start to accumulate value, you start to make appreciation of life. Then you should be able to you do not pumping like many young people do, but you are going forward, change your tires, go forward. Now, this slide should show you for yourself, what is your calling? What is your journey? If you're struggling before 65 to establish yourself in business, your profession, that's okay. You have to do that to sustain society. But after that, have you think about what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with if the Lord gives you this time, this health to be able to live to 100? If you live to 120, that's 20 bonus years for you, okay? But the thing is, you have to increase your health span. You have to live healthy. You have to look at the horoscope, the holism of the gyroscope that relate. So it's important to self-care, important to put our spirituality into the formula. It's important to have a relationship, and it's important not to kill yourself or poison yourself, okay? So next slide. So this is just a final slide to remind you, between the mind and the rest, there is an equilibrium, okay, a continuum. And above that is your relationship, your meaning, your calling, but down there is self-care, your career, your interest. That whole thing sums it up. Next, I think that's the last slide. Oh, this is my last thing for you. I always give this to people, and we very seldom preach on this. Paul said to the Philippians, he said, one final thing, fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about those things that are excellent and worthy of praise. This is so important in today's chaotic world. We always think about negative things. Oh, will there be another COVID? Oh, what happened to the Ukraine war? Oh, what happened when Trump becomes president again? Oh, what happened to this? What happened to that? What happened to, so on and so forth. Paul told us that don't worry about those things. Think about the good thing, because your whole body, your whole being, you survive and thrive on these things. The true thing, the honorable thing, the right thing, the good thing, the beautiful thing, the admirable things, those are excellent things and worthy of praise. Think about those things. It's some people call it positive motivation. I call it just downright simple, no nonsense spirituality. By the way, this is a photograph of an apple tree in my backyard. Unfortunately, this year the VDIC doesn't yield apple. This apple, when you cut it open, it's red inside. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like that. But when we planted the orchard, the farmer said, try this one. This is very fun. So you cut it out, this apple. I use it because it's such a beautiful thing. And, simple things in life. So next one. I hope this encouraged you. And thank you very much. And this is me last year in the desert in Inner Mongolia. And I was 79. And this year I'm 80. So I guess the Lord blessed me with some sort of a long life. I've got another 40 years to go. So thank you very much. May the Lord bless you, and I hope some of the ideas will stimulate your mind and take care of yourself. Don't kill yourself. Don't poison yourself.
Wow,
Praise the
Alex,
Lord.
that was something that is so good and so comprehensive.
Yes.
And you really stimulate our thinking of what we're going to do in our last part of our journey for those who have retired. And for those who are still working, you reflect on how you're going to spend your working life to be even much more productive and bring glory to our Lord. Once again, thank you. It's amazing. And I want to tell you that I really enjoy reading your book. It's very well written. And I understand that you're going to write 2 more books. Would you like to tell us about it?
It's like Lord of the Rings, right? You have to have 3. So my next book is called Sane Life, which is restoring sanity in a chaotic world, which is like a sequel to this book. This book is more of information, right? Data. And the next one is more practical things. How do you do that? How do you, I start with stress. How do you de-stress yourself, take care of yourself? How do you not to kill yourself? And the third book is the Lord gave the inspiration to me just recently. It's called Live Life. Now, this one is a Christian book. I think if people read my first one, second one, by the time you get to the third one, they probably realize that I'm a Christian.